Welcome back, CSCI-150 students. This is our next iteration under the topic of loops, and this is going to be the last one that focuses primarily on loops. And we're going to talk about a situation where you are expected to loop, not to cover a certain collection of values or to count up to a certain value, but until a certain condition that could happen at any time, it's really unpredictable when it happens, becomes true. So as an example, we're going to go back to the same example we've used in the last two recordings, where the user is asked to enter a fixed number of scores. In this case, that would be 4. And then we go through the grades that the user enters and add them, sum them up, count them, and then compute the average when we're done. So now what we're going to do is we're going to change the program so that the user no longer enters, or the program no longer knows how many grades the user is going to enter. They can enter as many grades as they want, but the program would stop once the user enters a grade of -1. In this particular case, -1 is a special value that tells the loop to terminate. And this becomes known as a sentinel value, and the whole structure is known as a sentinel value based looping. The condition now is going to be different. The condition is we're going to keep looping as long as exam is not equal to the special value of -1. So while the exam score is not equal to -1, what I want to do is I want to add that exam to the total, increase the count by 1, and then enter another exam score. Okay, that new exam score is going to be re-evaluated, checked against the condition equal to -1. If it's not true, then I add the exam to the sum, increase the count, and then repeat the process. Okay, so starting out with count being 0, sum is equal to 0. I cannot check if exam is not equal to -1 because exam doesn't have a value at this stage. So what I need to do is I need to start by asking the user to enter an exam score. So enter a first exam score. Okay, so in this particular case, enter first exam score, just to distinguish the score from the rest. Okay, and I'm gonna get rid of this. Once the user enters that first exam score, it's evaluated if it's equal to -1 or not. If it's not, we add it to the sum, increase the count, and then ask the user to enter another score, and so on and so forth until we reach the end. So let's try out the program. Enter first exam score. The curly braces are appearing because of these over here, so I'm probably going to get rid of them just for to be a bit more accurate. Okay, so enter first exam score. Let's say I enter 60. Okay, it liked it. So what it did was it went inside the loop. It added the exam to the sum, increased the count by 1, and now it's asking me to enter a second exam score. I should probably do debug mode instead because it makes things a bit clearer. So let me do the debug mode. Okay. Step over, step over, step over. I'm going to enter 60. Hit enter. And now we've got the loop. We're going to say step into the loop. Because the exam is not, exam is 60 is not equal to -1, it's going to go inside. Sum is going to be updated to include or to add the 60. Count is going to go up by 1. I'm going to enter another exam score. Let's say I enter 70 now. Okay, again, it's still not equal. 70 is not equal to -1. Add it to the sum. I've got 130. Enter, increase the count by 1 and enter a third exam score. Let's do now 83. So now I'm looking at an average of, actually, let's do 84.5. So now the average, if I'm not mistaken, should be 71.5. Enter. It's still not. Add to the sum, increase the count, And then at this stage, I'm going to enter -1. Okay. It's going to evaluate the condition and realize that now indeed exam is equal to -1. So it's going to exit. It's going to divide the sum by 3, give me an average of 71.5, and then display the average for the 3 exam scores. So notice now in this program, unlike in the previous case, where we always entered 4 scores, I can enter as many scores as I want, really depending on the situation. So now I can run it. In this case, I entered 3 scores. I can enter 5. So 50, 60, 70, 80, and 90. Average should be 70. And then we can enter -1. And then it realizes that I entered 5 scores and compute the average for them. You should, if you're interested in an extension, you should think about what would happen in my program if the first score that I entered was -1. What's going to happen to the execution? If you think about it for a second, that's going to make this condition true right away, which means it's going to skip over and go and compute the average and try to make an illegal mathematical computation. So let's do this, -1. It's going to try to divide 0 by 0. So division by 0 is not allowed. So your program should be a bit smarter. It should detect something like that. It should not allow the program to proceed to these 2 statements if we have not entered any score. So you could extend the program easily by checking if the count is still 0 or not. If it's still 0, then display an error message. Otherwise, you could compute the average. So here we could do something like this. If count is not equal to 0, compute the average and do this. Else, you could say print no grades entered. Okay. So try -1. It's just going to tell me no grades entered. Try 50, 60, and then -1. It's going to compute the average. So there you have it. The next topic is going to be more about strings, and then we move on to lists and parallel lists and reading data from files into lists. So stay tuned for more, and thank you much.